What's up everybody? Brody here with Sew Yeah Quilting. Welcome back to our channel. Today in this tutorial I want to teach you how to make this Dizzy Dancing Quilt using just a jelly roll and some background fabrics. One really cool thing that I'm going to show you in this tutorial is how to make half square triangles using the strips from a jelly roll, which not a lot of people know how to do. One thing that I want to mention is that we've started making kits for the quilts that we sew during these tutorials. This quilt behind me is made with a jelly roll by Felicity fabrics, and the quilt we're going to be sewing during the tutorial is a jelly roll by Maywood Studios, which you'll be able to see during the tutorial. It has like metallic flecks in it, so it's really cool. If you would like either one of these kits, click on the link below and you'll be able to get them on our website. Now, let's jump into the project. As you can see right here, I already have my fabrics laid out and some of them already pre-cut. So this right here is our background fabric, which we'll use for our setting triangles. I've cut some of the background fabric into 2.5-inch strips, and then I just lay these out so you can see what the jelly roll looks like. So I'm going to start by taking a strip of my jelly roll, and I'm going to take a strip from my background fabrics, and we're going to sew these together, right sides together. One thing that we're going to do, which is going to be different than your normal kind of strip quilt, is that you need to sew this on both of the long sides. So you're going to sew this down one side, turn around, and sew it down the other. So I'm going to do that right now, and I'll show you how that's done. Okay, so like I said, I just got to the end of my first strip here. I'm going to lift up my presser foot, just flip the strip around, and sew a 1/4-inch seam down the other side of the strip. So I'm going to have it on both sides, okay? Looking like a railroad track. Okay, so I just finished sewing my 1/4-inch seam on both sides. Now I'm going to show you how to cut these into your half square triangles. So to cut these half square triangles, we're going to be using the Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer. This right here, we'll have a link in the description below if you want to get one of these. We showed these on the video last week, and we had lots of people say they've never seen them before, and lots of people bought them and said it's just changed the way they make their half square triangles. So check these out, and we're going to show you how to use them, okay? So I'm going to lay this down on top. It has lines here on your 1.5 inch, and then it shows the 1/4-inch seam as well. So you'll see this here. I don't know if you can see it from the top view, but I'm going to lay this down right here and line up the bottom. So the bottom of my line is lined up here, and then the dotted line is on my seam that I've sewn. So I'm going to lay this like this, and I'm going to cut this triangle out. So I'm going to hold it down like this. I'm going to get my rotary cutter. I'm going to cut right there. I'm going to come on this side. Cut down this side. And then one thing that is cool about this ruler, which makes all the difference, is you can basically square this up using the ruler sitting down like this already. So it has little slots in it right here. You're going to take your rotary cutter and it trims off the dog ears on your half square triangles. So I'm going to set this here, cut the other side off. Now when I lift this up, I hope you can see this on camera on top here, it's cut off the dog ears here, and it squared it. So we have a perfect half square triangle that's already trimmed, already got the dog ears off, and already square. So I'm going to repeat this process here, and what I'm going to do is, obviously I've cut this piece off here. All you have to do is just flip it the other direction and do the same thing going this way. So you do it back and forth, reversing it every time, and that will get you your half square triangle. So I'm going to finish cutting this, and then we'll jump into cutting our squares here to make the rest of the quilt. We'll be right back. Now that my half square triangles are done, what I'm going to do is start cutting my squares for all of these little squares that are in here, okay? So you need 2.5 by 2.5 inch squares. So I've laid them out, just some of my strips out right here, and I'm going to cut some 2.5 inch squares from them. So now that we have everything cut, I'm gonna show you how to put this block together. One thing that I wanna point out, and I'm gonna show you two different variations of how to do this, is the way that we put our half square triangles. So this quilt right here, you notice that all of the blocks, so here's a block, here's a block, here's a block, all of the blocks have the same color half square triangles in the corners. So this one's got greens, this one has pinks, this one has oranges. The block that I'm gonna make on camera right now, I'm gonna show you how to do kind of a scrappy version, just so you can get an idea of what both quilts look like. So we're gonna jump into it right here. I've got my half square triangles laid out, and I also have my 2.5 inch squares that we already cut. So the way I like to do this, just to make sure we don't get things mixed up, is to take my corner pieces. I don't want them all to be the same color here. Again, it's gonna be scrappy. So take my corner pieces and lay them out in the corners of how we would have our block here, like that. Then what I do is grab a set of your squares, or excuse me, your half square triangles, and you can then kind of fill in the block here. So there's one block. Do the same thing on this side, like this. Oops. Again, repeat the process. So I'm gonna do that with these right here. Turn this around, this is my outside piece. I actually want to change these here, just I want it to be ultra scrappy looking. And then last one, same thing. Again, I don't want black on black next to each other, so I'm gonna do it like this. Just like that, okay? Now that my cornerstone pieces are done, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna move to the center of the block. And again, if you have a better way to do this, you want to do it different and just kind of do them in a row, do it that way, whatever works for you. Here's my centerpiece. So you kind of have your square and a square right here. What I'm going to do, again, it's scrappy, so I'm going to just point these all towards the center, like this. And now I'm going to fill in the rest with just our 2.5 inch squares. So this kind of lays out what the construction of the block looks like. And then from there, you can kind of just mix and match to get the look that you want using your squares. So that's what I'm gonna do now. So this is what your block turns out looking like. Very scrappy looking, but also very pretty. As you can see, it's different than this one right here, where we have the same colors. We wanted to give you the two different options so you can see if you want to do it scrappy or you want to do it a little more traditional like this one. One thing that's important to note is this needs to be sewn in strips, not in squares, okay? When we first did our first kind of little test run of this block, we sewed everything kind of like in 4 patches like this, but we couldn't get everything to nest properly and line up just right doing it that way. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna pull over my other block here, and we're gonna sew this together and then this together and work our way down like this. That way we can get everything to nest and line up just right. So I'm gonna get my other blocks over here, show you how to sew it. So I'm gonna take my first row here on my block. I'm gonna put these right sides together and sew a 1/4 inch seam and work my way down the row here. Okay, I got my first one done. I'm gonna open it up. Obviously I'm gonna iron this, so I'm gonna take my next set here. Do the same thing. And then round 3, so open this one up, grab these, right sides together. Now I'm gonna take 2 of my 2 blocks here, right sides together, and sew a 1/4 inch seam. Open these up, and get my last one here, right sides together, and this will finish up the first row. Then I'm gonna repeat this in the rest of my rows going down my block and start sewing my rows together. Okay, now as you can see here, I've sewn a couple of my rows together. I'm just gonna show you how to do this here. So I'm gonna take these, put them right sides together, and you can pin these or clip these. What I like to do is just line up my top corner and then work per each little seam here on the way down. So I line those up and sew down to it, line the next one up, sew down to it. Obviously, as long as your cutting was right, you shouldn't have very much difference between the top and the bottom, so I'm gonna show you how to do that here. Okay, I got this done here. I'm gonna open it up, set it down on top, right sides together of my block here, and do the same thing and finish off this block. Okay, so I just finished this square right here. This is how it turned out. I'm gonna iron this open so that it is ready to sew to the other blocks. I'm gonna give you just a quick little walkthrough of how to do the setting triangles right here, and we'll start sewing together the blocks here in the center. So we'll be right back. So now let's talk about setting triangles. As you can see here on camera, I have a square here that I've already cut in half, which would be my triangles. So it's really that easy. You're gonna get a square piece of fabric, you're going to cut across diagonally from corner to corner, and that will give you 2 setting triangles. If you need smaller triangles, what you can do is obviously cut across this direction and then cut this direction, and that'll give you 4 setting triangles. So I'm gonna get this set up real fast and show you how to piece your blocks together. Give me 1 second. So now as you can see here, I already have the majority of my quilt put together. But what I wanna show you is how to do these setting triangles and also your corner pieces of your triangles here. So obviously I've sewn these rows together. I'm gonna show the last row on camera so you can see how it works. But I just wanted to show you kind of a quilt that's already almost put together just so you can see how it's going together in the rows. So I'm gonna slide this out of the way right now. And I'm gonna grab my quilt block here. So I have my block and I have my setting triangles that I've already cut. So I have my smaller one, which we won't put on until the very end. We'll put all 4 of our corner ones on at the end. So I'm gonna set this aside. I'm gonna grab my larger triangles. So this is how you lay out your setting triangles. You're going to line up each side like this. And I'm gonna sew, you wanna make sure you're lining up your bottom more than anything. I'm going to lay this right sides together over the top and sew a 1/4 inch seam down one side and then open it up and do the same thing on the other side. So I'm gonna take this over to the sewing machine and do that now. Okay, first triangle's on. I'm gonna open this up. Same thing on the other side. Line it up and 1/4 inch seam. So I have 2 of my setting triangles on here. I'm gonna lay this down like this. This is to finish off the end triangle. So I'm gonna lay this down like this, and I'm basically just gonna cut off the little tag that's on here, little dog ear. Just line it up with the bottom of or with the rest of your quilt, and cut off a little, turns into a little triangle at the end. So same thing on this side. Just like that. Now, we're ready to put on our last triangle. Okay, so I just finished my setting triangles here. Open them up so you can give a look at what they look like. And now I'm going to add this on as my last row onto my quilt, then I'll hold the quilt so you can see what it looks like. So I just finished sewing on our last row and our quilt turned out perfect. I'm gonna run this across the building to our in-store long armor to have it finished. We've just put our new long arm module live on our website. You can check in a quilt, send it to us, and we will quilt it for you, so make sure you check that out in the description below. As always, we're gonna have instructions on how to make this quilt in the description below, along with the kits that we talked about in the beginning of the video. Thanks for watching. My name's Brody, teaching you how to sew like a pro. We'll see you next week here at Sew Yeah Quilting.